Seagram 7 and ginger ales.
Oh no!
I thought you were gonna say
While you listen to Chuck
Seagram's.
and smoke cigars.
Yeah, yep. And then got yelled at because the cigar smoke was too bad. I
I thought
tried
you were,
blaming it on the wood burner, but nobody was buying it.
Yeah, that's smoke will find its way everywhere.
Yeah, I had a window open and I didn't think it was that bad, but it honestly smelled worse upstairs than it did down here. Uh,
I can't believe you smoked cigars in your house and that you lived to tell the story. I would not.
the kids were all excited about it because it meant that they didn't have to sleep in their bedroom last night. Oh, Tony said he's got a. Yeah, go ahead, Tony. Said he has a late question. I don't think we have a very good track record with late questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like we got like a ton of snow.
and if you look at the radar, it still seems like it's gonna go on forever.
I know, but are you looking at the radar right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you see that we're in like a dry patch?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, and it's been like that for a couple hours. But I don't know. As long as it doesn't, it's such a heavy snow. As long as it doesn't blow that much, I think I should be able to get out of here to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, like you said, it is pretty dang heavy. I shoveled it and I about killed my back doing it.
I have to do it after this.
All right, Tony, I got your question. Um, and we do have an answer.
Already, we have an answer.
Have an answer.
Hmm.
Um, Andy, are you able to get into the chat
I'll try.
since you got a 82-inch monitor?
Excuse me.
Um, yeah, it was kind of it rained here till like I don't know, probably 10.
Yeah, same thing last night. I mean, it was pretty drastic. I just going to bed about midnight and then all of a sudden waking up and it was.
I know. I kind of like half expected it just to have rained all night and there wouldn't be that much snow, and I looked out and I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, I sort of expected it to be a lot less than they thought, but
Jeremy says it's sunny one and sunny in Mesa.
get out of town, Jeremy. I am out of town.
What are the odds though? Like, well,
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna guess the odds are 1 out of 31. But like,
But
yeah, the fact that one day that we had
Yeah.
something planned in January, that's
What's that? It's like the 16-hour period where I was gonna drive
right.
was like the worst weather we've had in all winter, and then it's not gonna snow again for probably a week or more. Well, at least that's the.
That's really stupid.
So it hasn't snowed for a long time, and it's not gonna snow after this. But
Right.
just
I'll
in-
tell you what, it must
I
have
was pretty
freaked my chickens out though, because they popped out eggs like nuts today.
you need a good storm to get them.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it was like, oh, we can't go outside and walk around, so let's just shit out all these eggs.
They popped out eggs like you pop out your nuts.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either, but you said like nuts, so it made me think of nuts.
Nuts.
Well, let's see. Guess I better get organized here.
Chat wing.
Actually, I'm gonna hit the bathroom before we get started.
Bear.
It already gets enough abuse. You don't have to hit it. To do. That's a good point that Tony mentions in the chat is why wasn't Pat Hughes at the Cubs convention? Actually, I remember them saying now that he had some minor surgery. Oh, Corey. Oh, okay, that's the question. Okay. That's the question that Corey said he had an answer to. So,
A little preview to the answer.
yeah, congratulations, Andy, on man. So what, Corey? You said something like the 21st, maybe for the baseball card episode.
Yeah, so let me see. Michael said, find that text message. He said, February 8th, but that's
The 8th, I can't do the 8th.
Sunday, right?
Yeah, I can't do
Yeah.
that anyways because my mom's birthday's that week and we're celebrating then.
He said the 15th, but that doesn't really work for us because we're going to Chicago. I mean, but that's a Sunday. That's not going to work very well. So he said
21 should work.
yeah, 21st works
Yeah.
for me.
It should work for me. 20th is that Pokey concert.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about. Is that on a Friday?
It's on Friday, yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to it?
Probably not because I'm going to go to a show here on the following Tuesday, so I don't think I can do
Yeah.
both. And since I've already seen Pokey, I think I'm going to do.
Yeah, it'll be kind of. I mean,
Bela Fleck and Abigail Washburn at the Englert on Tuesday. Banjo.
we I mean, I guess I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, well, we've seen Pokey, but we didn't really see a show of his.
Right.
You know what I mean?
This will just be him with
Yeah.
probably. Well, I suppose it'll be
His
somebody
band.
opening, but
And he'll have his band, but
it won't quite be like a variety show. I don't know. I mean, I really liked Pokey, but like I wasn't blown away, so I was kind of like, I've seen him. I'm good.
yeah, my mom's real excited about it, and I think my dad's gonna go, so they were asking.
That'll be cool.
It's in Iowa City.
No, it's a
No,
Red Storm.
Storm.
Oh, okay.
Pokey is.
I probably should go.
They said they were going to. My parents acted like they were gonna be interested in getting a table too.
Yeah,
So that'd be
you have
kinda
to
nice.
pay for a table for $50. I saw.
Is that what it is? I couldn't
you
remember.
can reserve a table. It costs $50, but that doesn't include your show tickets.
Yeah, but I guess like my dad has like some hip
Yeah.
issues and stuff, and I don't know. My back hurts. I'll have to wear my Rockports. If I have to stand up, I'm wearing my Rockports.
Your
Jer-
what's that other brand of
Jer-
black tennis shoes?
Jeremy in the chat says, "Are they speaking a different language? Maybe it's like the pokey chat."
Well, I would suggest checking out Pokey Lafarge.
He's all right.
Well, you've softened on him a little bit.
No, but that's the thing is I love the music. I'm just
Right.
saying I didn't love his show.
Yeah, I wasn't that. I
loved
just don't think
everybody
that was
else more
the.
than him.
I don't think that was the like main emphasis of that tour was him.
Right. Well, he was the headliner though.
Yeah, but he only played what, like maybe 5 songs or something.
Yeah, it was a pretty short set.
Well, I think I'm ready if you guys are.
Yeah. As ready as I'm gonna be.
Okay. Turn the recorder on.
It's freezing down here.
Okay. Sorry, I got to get my windows all in place.
You can see the porn on your other screen.
All right, here we go. All right, girls, I'm recording now.
Get off the shed.
Okay?
Get off the shed, girls.
Dad, we're smoking cigars upstairs.
Well, earlier,
be quiet.
right before when I went to the bathroom, they had taken off Mallory's twin-size mattress off of her bunk bed and taken it upstairs, and they were getting ready to slide down the stairs on it. It's like, look at the weather out there. We did not need a trip to the hospital today. Let's not do this.
I saw Tony's picture of you laying on it in the living room, so you took full advantage.
What? She posted a picture where?
On Facebook.
Good Lord.
Farspark.
How about some privacy?
Can a man lay on a twin mattress in his living room?
Right.
In the chat, they're talking about Pokey as in Gumby's horse.
Jeremy, I think you can post pictures in the chat. Seems like we've done it before. Oh yeah, you can. You click on that little palette thing. Okay. Anyways, I'll get back on track. Sorry, guys.
Oh yeah. She put it on Instagram too. I'm actually looking at it right now. Nice pants, by the way.
Well, I was wearing pants, right?
You were wearing pants.
Okay. I can't remember.
Nice flesh-colored pants.
You are laying on your back, so it's emphasizing your package.
Well, I think I had just done the driveway, so I was kind of like straightening out my back. Okay, here we go. On this week's episode, we'll look at the 2015 PECOTA projections. PECOTA projects the Cubs to finish the 2015 season with an 82-80 record. We'll look at the individual projections and talk about what we think about an 82-80 team in 2015. If you haven't heard, the Cubs have a good minor league system. Another prospect ranking list came out, and we'll let you know how many Cubs were in the top 100 and where they fall on the list. We'll talk a little about some of the recent comments by the new baseball commissioner regarding the length of games and lack of offense. We'll answer some listener questions, read some internet muscle flexes, and name the winner of the Iowa Cubs Javier Baez t-shirt jersey. There's all of these things and more on this episode. It is February 1st, 2015, and you're listening to the 293rd episode of the IVNV podcast. Hi, and thanks for listening to this week's episode. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Corey, and not here in the studio, but joining me through the internet, the other two hosts of this podcast.
Hi, it's Andy.
And Kurt.
Mother Nature decided that us getting together for the first time since July was a bad idea, apparently. The three of us.
The internet still works in storms,
right.
Winter storms.
Well, kind of. We'll see if we get through this episode. It wasn't working earlier, apparently. So yeah, Chuck Mangione was on the turntable. Cigars had been purchased. Pliny and Jingle Java were chilled at the appropriate, ideal temperatures. Packages of unopened baseball cards were laid out on the table.
I've already gone through all this in my head and mourned the loss of that experience, even though we're gonna reschedule, but still I've been looking forward to it so long that it hurt.
Yeah, me too.
On Friday, when I realized it probably wasn't gonna happen, I was still hopeful on Friday, but then it kind of sunk in, and I was pretty bummed.
Yeah, and then Corey sent us a little video of Chuck playing on the turntable, and that made it a little bit more painful, or just kind of freshened the pain, I guess.
It did not feel so good.
So anybody from outside the Midwest that might be thinking we're just being pansies by not getting together to record this. The weather's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Worse for you guys. It was supposed
Yeah,
to
I
be
mean, we've
bad
got.
here.
I think we're probably getting close to a foot or more of snow.
Yeah.
About the same boat for me, and then it looks like when you look at the radar that the end is not necessarily that close. So
The end
It's
is
about a
somewhere
2-hour
in-
drive for me, and it was like if you looked at they kind of put like a bullseye type circle map up, and it was exactly where I would have had to drive. So probably wasn't the wisest thing. We
No.
made a good choice for once.
Yes, I think we did. I mean, it would have been. I would have been impressed if you guys would have, packed up your snowshoes, got as far as you could, then pulled over to the side and.
Strapped up the sled
what do you
dogs.
mean, like came the rest of the way on snowshoes?
Right.
You would have been sending out a Saint Bernard with a little barrel of whiskey attached to its neck to find me.
But Michael still came out last night, so there was still some chuck spinning, and we drank a couple Jingle Javas and sat in the basement, and we just stared at those packs of cards, just letting our imaginations run wild with the treasures that were inside.
The stale gum.
Hold
Yeah,
them up to the window to see if you could see one.
yeah, yep. Thought about what could have been, but hopefully we'll still be here. So yeah, we're gonna try to reschedule that baseball card episode. What's kind of funny is when Michael said he wanted to do a baseball card episode, three months ago probably. I was just like, yeah, that sounds fun. We'll get together. But I wasn't really too excited about the idea of looking at the baseball cards. And if you're listening and you weren't around for when we did our first baseball card episode, we basically just kind of went through and found just the craziest 80s, mustaches, mullets, just derpy faces, and just tried to find the craziest stuff and made a game out of it. And so as I was going through my baseball cards in the last week, I really got excited about doing this thing. It's been torture to sit on some of these.
I know. Tell me about it. But it might be cool for us to add a couple of rounds of just the coolest baseball, like the coolest baseball card as far as nostalgia and
Right.
the
I don't
player.
know if I own any cool ones. Terrible 80s cards.
Right. There's a whole lot of those.
Well, I'll tell you guys one that I it's not a big deal for me to tell you is I have a Tommy John card. And
yeah, I
thought
found the Tommy John card too.
I thought it'd be funny just to if somebody threw down a pitcher, then just throw down. Well, how about a little Tommy John for you, But I thought it was cool looking at that card because you can see it was a 79 card, and back in 75 it has the whole, or 74, I'm not sure, the whole year crossed out as disabled list. So that's the OG TJ surgery right there.
That's pretty cool.
And then he came back to throw, at least 4 more seasons after that, pretty effectively from what I could tell.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, you should bring that one. I wouldn't mind looking at that.
will do.
So yeah, let's get some business out of the way real quick. First off, because of it's the big game, right, guys? We can't call it what it is. I never
I don't
understood.
know. I think maybe fair use you can, but I don't know.
I just always people say you can't say what the name of it is. You have to say the big game.
I think in a news type situation you could, and we're news media, so we can.
Okay.
Just
Anyways, we're recording this thing earlier in the day, in the afternoon. So you can normally go to ivmv.com/live on Sunday evenings at 8:30 p.m. Central and watch the live video broadcast of these recordings, but not tonight. I'm sure you've heard us talk about it on here, but Andy and I will be out at spring training for a week. We'll be there March 14th through the 20th. And if you're out there in that stretch, get a hold of us. We're doing a meetup on March 19th. That's a night game. The Cubs are playing at the Diamondbacks spring training ballpark. And if you would like to join us, just buy the general admission lawn seats and then get a hold of us. And we'll share more details on all that stuff as the dates get closer. Tickets for our bus sale are currently only available to Patreon supporters, but they'll go on sale to everybody on Friday. That's February 6th. Last week I said that we won't talk about it every week, and we won't, but for someone that didn't listen last week and wonders what the heck we're talking about, Andy, will you describe our bus trip?
Yeah, we're all going to take off together from the Quad Cities, and so we jump on the bus. We have a few beverages on the way. We talk Cubs stuff on the way. Watch some Cubs-related movies, and just kind of have just kind of a good time hanging out with other Cubs fans. And we don't have to worry about driving. Bus takes us straight to the park, drops us off right there, and we get to take in the game
Infield seats.
together.
Infield
Yeah.
reserve.
Infield reserve seats, and it looks like, despite it being August, that's going to put us probably under the overhang and out of the sun. And then you don't have to really worry about driving home. Maybe had a couple too many beverages. Well, you just get back on the bus and arrive
Pass out.
safely at your destination and
Get back on the bus and drink a few more.
have a few more. So it's a really like low stress. Like normally, for people who live outside of the Chicagoland area, I mean, going to Wrigley Field can kind of be a stressful proposition, even just with trying to figure out what you're going to do with your car, where you're going to park. Got to make sure I am responsible as far as what I drink, so I can drive home. So it's actually a really great experience overall. I would recommend it to anyone who hasn't done it before.
Throw responsibility out the window.
Yeah,
No, please don't. Please don't throw all of it.
I'm not advocating being immoderate in any way, but I am advocating having fun.
Yeah, for sure.
IVMV, advocating having fun. So you might think that I'm just saying this to try to sell the tickets quickly, but seriously, I think this thing is going to sell out pretty quickly. Andy, we went to a function on Friday night. I would say that at least a dozen people there told me that they're really excited about going on the trip. In fact, John, who is the singer of the band that plays our intro song, he became a Patreon supporter just so he could get his ticket early. I've had several people at my work say that they're planning on going, and so I'm not saying this to pressure you at all, but if you want to go on the bus trip, I wouldn't procrastinate on buying the tickets. And speaking of Patreon, we have a winner for the Iowa Cubs Javier Baez t-shirt jersey. The drawing was open to all of our listeners that support us through Patreon, and if you'd like to help support the podcast, go to patreon.com/IVMV. It's really easy, and it helps us keep this thing helps us keep this thing going. Pledging levels start at just $1 a month, and the winner is Matthew Macer. And Matthew pledges at the associate producer level. And we'll be doing more of these Patreon drawings throughout the season. Matt, I'll get this thing in the mail to you as soon as I can get to a post office. And so congrats, Matt, and thanks to everybody that supports IVMV through Patreon. So only took us 11 minutes to get to this point, guys.
Yeah, I think it was like 15 last week, so we're doing pretty well.
Right. Let's get into some baseball talk. The season is coming up pretty quickly. I think the pitchers and catchers report in like 18 days or something, which is
that's crazy.
amazing. I'm so excited. Like, I kind of see the winter as, to get back on weather talk, we are Midwesterners. I kind of see the winter as like a 3-month thing. You have like December, January, and February. And I mean, it can still be ugly in March, but things are turning around. And it's like, okay, we got 2 of those months out of the way.
Right.
We're on the home stretch. So, and then just knowing that pitchers and catchers are going to be reporting in less than 3 weeks, in like 2.5 weeks, that's awesome. Then to make things even a little more tangible, we've had the Pagoda projections to look at.
Pagoda. The little guy in Royal Tenenbaums. So, sorry.
I think what you're talking about, Corey, is the player empirical comparison and optimization test algorithm.
Right.
And that is Baseball Prospectus's proprietary system. And I guess kind of what it is and what it does is it takes each player and finds similar players throughout the history of baseball and kind of takes a look at what those players have done in similar situations to what the player is going to be in this year, and so it's just making a projection as to what to expect from the players on a particular team. And so for the Cubs as a team, and its team projections, it was projected to win 82 games against 80 losses and score 665 runs. So, and that puts them, what, did you figure this out as one game out of the playoffs, Corey? They missed
Yeah, they have like where you can, I think it's even, if you don't subscribe to Baseball Prospectus, I think the like overall standings are free to see. And so you could just Google Pacoda standings or something like that. And it has them, I can't remember who I think the Cardinals win the Central, but I can't think of who the wild card teams are, but I think the Padres were the last wild card team it projected, so the Cubs were one game behind them.
Yeah, so I thought them missing the playoffs by one game with only scoring 665 runs was pretty generous. I was looking at all of their playoff appearances since 1984, and they've scored at least 700 runs or more in all of those, and usually quite a bit more than 700. But anyway, so that's pretty cool. I mean, it'll be nice, if they can live up to that and play, above 500 baseball. I mean, the first time in a long time. It's been a long time since we've seen them play at that level. So,
yeah,
I hope they can, play up to that projection.
Yeah, but I'm pretty comfortable with that record, 82 and 80. And we've talked about that in this offseason. I think 500 I'm content with that. I mean, and I guess it just signals the entertaining baseball all season long. I guess that's something that we haven't experienced in a number of years, like you said, Andy. I just can't really let myself think about playoffs. I think if playoffs happen, it's an exciting bonus, but I think this whole thing is about the plan continuing to progress, and I'm more concerned about the sustained success of the team than I am the Cubs being a playoff team in 2015. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would, love. I'll take a playoff run in 2015. I would enjoy that, but I just don't feel like I can put those expectations on this season. And I just want to have fun watching the Cubs. And right. I want to have a reason to like stand up and yell and make a fool out of myself at home when I watch this team. And it's something I haven't had a little bit last year, I guess, but I haven't had that opportunity in a while. And I do see this thing as like a slow. You know what I'm trying to say?
Well, I think what you're trying to say is the 82 wins is still what? Is that 9? How many did they win last year? 73, right?
I'll
I think yeah. So I think it's a 9-game improvement. That's pretty good. So, I mean, if you're looking at your improvements, that's significant. And I mean, I think too for me, it's the fact that the games will mean something longer. So maybe they won't mean something in late September, but they will mean something in July. They're not out of it in July, which we've experienced in the past, where it's still fun to watch in the summer, but they're probably not going anywhere. But I think. If they're hovering around 500 for most of the season, we can, a hot streak gets you into the wild card. So
I don't even think it's so much like games being interesting because they're in contention, but just games being interesting. I
don't know. I think contention makes them far more interesting.
Oh, it does. But at the same time, if it's a fun team to watch, and if they have like a winning streak. I mean, I can't even think of the last time we had like a decent winning streak. And I think if you just kind of have some of that stuff, the Cubs win some exciting games. I think that I think this team can still be fun without, I guess the playoff stuff. But that does take it up another level.
I think the most they won last season in a row was 5.
Yeah,
better than a lot of the previous seasons. I think there were a couple of seasons where they maybe won 3 in a row was the most.
Well, and we've had seasons in the last couple of years where the Cubs, between our podcast episodes, the Cubs did not win a single game multiple times.
One thing I did find encouraging, though, is, Corey, you popped this up on Facebook last week, and everybody kind of, I haven't looked at it recently, but from what I saw when you first put it up, everybody was really kind of excited and about that projection. I expected somebody to chime in with a,
it's not good
sporting
enough.
News kind of, that's not good enough. But you got to give everybody a thumbs up for being level-headed and saying, yeah, I'll take that. That's good stuff. So
because I think our 2015 is not the be-all, end-all for us. We have years.
But some people, I think, they think it is.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, we have years of club control on these players yet. Like this is an era, not a season.
This is year one of the era.
Right.
And the Cubs could go all Jim Hendry on this year and try to get the remaining perceivable holes that exist on the team by trading some of their prospects.
And you just left. There were so many donut jokes in there. There's so many. I just didn't know where to start.
Okay, well, good. Don't start because and then we could watch terrible teams in 2017, 2018, 2020. But now,
right.
With the way that they're doing things, we could be watching great baseball from now. 5, 6, 7 years into the future. So.
Right.
It's pretty cool. But getting into a little bit of the specifics, because there are projections for every single player as well. There are some interesting things. Overall, Pacoda was kind of harsh on the pitching, I thought. It has Lester going 12-9 with a 3.28 ERA, and Arrieta it's a little bit even harsher on. They have him at 11-10 with a 3.66 ERA. You got to remember that this projection system does have all of their all of their seasons historically speaking in mind, and so Arrieta's had some rough seasons, Lester's had some rough seasons, and so that has an effect on these projections too. It's taking a look at their body of work as a whole and not weighting recent success over earlier failures or anything like that. So,
and finding the similar players that maybe had those same types of seasons and stuff.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't think any of these numbers are crazy surprising. I mean, I could totally see Lester going 12-9 with a 3.28 ERA, but I could also see him pitching way better than that. So.
Well, that's over 1 run higher than his 2014 ERA.
Yeah. So that is a little shocking in that regard, but he has had seasons where he's had 4+ ERAs as well. So it seems like it's just kind of going with the average, Well,
and it also projects that he'll have more walks and fewer strikeouts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's those things to look at too, and.
Right, and then there's some weird things too. I mean, for some reason it has Edwin Jackson getting 33 starts, yeah. and having a terrible season, of course. And then Hendricks is only at 8 games started. So some people pointed it out in the comments. I mean, if for some reason Edwin does make it into the rotation and is pitching terribly, there's no reason to have him continue to get starts when they have these other guys they can plug in there.
Right.
But anyway, I see him being in the bullpen anyway, but and Hendricks being in the rotation. But just some interesting things like that. I mean, which is, I suppose it's kind of the nature of these sort of projection systems, is that there's going to be some weird anomalous things like that. But Rondon is projected to have 35 saves, which I thought was pretty generous, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I thought that the Chris Bryant numbers were a little off.
Yeah, let's get into the offensive side of the ball a little bit. Both Rizzo and Castro are projected to have little regressions from last year's seasons. Castro in particular is they were a little harsh on him, as he's projected to have a slash line of 277, 317 OBP, and 397 slugging. Whereas last season, he had a pretty great season. He hit 292 and had an OBP of 339. So they expect his OBP to go down. They expect him. The projection has him only hitting 9 homers, as opposed to last year's 14 homers. So that's a little rough on Castro. But like I said, I mean, I think it's taking into account his 2013 season is having an effect on those numbers as well. But additionally to that, some other weird anomalous things, I thought it has Tommy La Stella as getting 247 plate appearances as a third baseman. and Old taking some of the appearances, and all this is prior to Bryant coming up, and they have him getting 199 plate appearances and having pretty amazing numbers for his first season or first part of a season in the bigs.
Yeah, so that number of plate appearances would mean roughly 50 or 60 games. But I think if he's healthy and plays well in the spring, in his time in Iowa and spring training, I think that'll be significantly higher. Yeah, so in those 200 plate appearances, it has him as a two-WAR player. That's a good sign for a rookie.
That's really good. Yeah,
That's really good for 200 plate appearances.
because that means that a full season's worth of plate appearances, that would be a 6.
Right.
It's about a 6.
As a rookie. So I kind of think that the Bryant numbers might be a little optimistic. But that's the thing about these prospects. You know, who knows? They can come up and play really well, or we can see him come up and struggle. And I think that Bryant, although he has a long swing and some of that stuff, I think that he's more polished than Baez, and hopefully we won't see him going through some of the issues that Baez is facing.
And it might make sense that it would be a little bit bloated based on how he's done in the minor leagues, just how he just
Right.
kind of set the world on fire down there. But Baez, it also projected him to play the lion's share of the games at second base, and projected him as hitting 25 homers. So, despite only having a 224 batting average.
Yeah, does it? I don't have it pulled up in front of me. Does it have? Does it project his strikeouts?
It doesn't. It doesn't project strikeouts at all, but his OBP is 270, which is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. They're kind of fun to look at. You know, I don't know. Obviously, there's going to be some. You know, it's going to miss on some, and you know, there's injuries and all that kind of stuff to take into account. And I think that it's especially hard with the Cubs just based on the status of the team. It's not like they're going into a season like some other teams might, where you have a pretty good idea of what the lineup is and who's going to make it up at different points and everything. But I mean, there's just so much that could happen with the Cubs. You know, Addison Russell could come up sometime this season,
Mm-hmm.
or he might not. You know, there's a lot of variables.
Right.
Anything else you want to talk about with PECOTA?
No, I think that's pretty much it. But it is pretty interesting to look at, and like you said, it doesn't take into account, you know, it's just the seasons that kind of come out of nowhere sometimes, you know, and that always happens. Like somebody just have like a really surprisingly good or surprisingly bad season. So it's all kind of an even keel type of thing. I mean, even the Bryant numbers that appear to be a little inflated. I mean, you know, players could have way worse or way better seasons just out of nowhere, and that does happen.
Right. The official Major League Baseball prospect list came out from MLB.com. Obviously, the Cubs had players scattered throughout the list, and I think it was in the last week that Keith Law crowned the Cubs as the best farm system in baseball. Kind of feels like we talk about this stuff all the time, but I guess it's still worth mentioning. I'm fairly convinced that every single person listening to this podcast knows that the Cubs have a good farm system. I don't think it's news.
If they don't, they haven't been listening.
Is it
Right,
pretty good?
to anybody. Yeah, it is, Andy.
Okay.
We got some young kids. So yeah, MLB.com, they released their top 100 prospects. Chris Bryant was listed at number 2, behind only Byron Buxton, and Addison Russell is ranked number 5. 3 of the top 5 prospects in all of baseball are shortstops. I thought that was interesting. Correa with the Astros and Francisco Lindor with the Indians, and then Addison Russell. Jorge Soler came in at number 22. C.J. Edwards is number 47. Kyle Schwarber is 49. And Albert Almora is number 57. So really they have 6 in the top 57, which is pretty impressive. The Cubs had 6 players. The only team with more, that would be the Pirates with 7. One thing that kind of stood out to me, it's just kind of a nice mixture of players acquired through trades and the draft. And I think that that's kind of worth noting because the Cubs over the next couple years will not have some of the great draft opportunities that they've had the last couple years. And so, I think a lot of people could say, "Oh yeah, it's easy to it's easy to have a great farm system when you get, a top 3 or 4 or 5 pick every year." But if you look at that list, there's a number of them that were acquired through trades. What C.J. Edwards was, and Russell, yeah. So I think that's, I don't know. I was trying to think of sustained, in 3 years, 4 or 5 years, what will this farm system look like? And I think that based on the strategy that they have and the Cubs front office's ability to identify talent and with the scouting that they have, and that's something that when I went to the Cubs bloggers forum thing, that's what I'm going to kind of summarize what he said. But Crane Kenny said, I don't remember. He said, I don't know if we're the best at everything, but we're really, really good at scouting. And
the fact that they were just willing to make sure that they got McKinney also in addition to Russell.
Right.
They
he's
probably
not a throwaway piece that they just tack onto it. He's, a good ball player.
Right. I mean, so just like looking for those little things that they can add in there to keep it strong and keep it coming.
Yeah. So I guess another thing that kind of stands out to me when looking at that list and that group is that all 6 players could be up with the Cubs by the end of next season, the 2016 season. None of them will start below AA this year, and all could be with the Cubs or in AAA by the end of this season. So it's not like, we've got all these kids and they're in low A, like it had been the case a couple years ago. So they're moving up and they're staying at the top of these lists, and they're actually kind of moving up the lists. And it's a bumper crop, fellas.
And we've been looking forward to this for 6 seasons. I mean, looking forward to this kind of a moment and this time in the organization for forever, it seems like, and it's finally here.
Yeah. In general baseball news, baseball has a new commissioner, and it didn't take very long for him to ruffle some feathers, did it, Kurt?
Not really, but I guess I'm kind of likening this a bit to like a presidential campaign speech. I mean, he said a lot of things. We'll see what actually happens. But yeah, he said some things that were a little bit out there, but also some things that I was happy to hear. A lot of the discussion has been around the pace of play, which I think is a hot point of discussion. And so he it's hard to sort of pinpoint what he said, because he wasn't real concrete about what he would or wouldn't do, but he definitely wants to increase pace of play. He kind of said that if they could shave 7 to 10 minutes off per game, that would be a huge success. So don't go expecting games are going to, be 2 hours long in the near future or anything. But so yeah, that's a huge focus for him. He did kind of make, I suppose it could be labeled a gaffe of, he said something about banning defensive shifts if it could help the offense, but he did kind of clarify that later, that it was in response to a question that was kind of more radical thoughts about how to change the game. So I don't think it's something he's actually looking to do. It's just something he said that he would be open to discussing. Let's see, what else did he say?
Why are you moving away from the length of games and stuff?
No, okay. We can stay there. Well, I would have, but I won't now.
Well, so I'm kind of
another thing he said though is somebody had asked about pitch clock, or he mentioned pitch clock, and he said he would be opposed to an actual clock. So, and I was actually encouraged to hear that. I don't really like a physical clock that pitchers are held against.
I think, the pitch clock doesn't bother me a whole lot. Number one, if it's not on my TV screen, I don't want to see it. And number two, if it's not necessarily like a, they're going to throw a penalty flag, but just kind of a suggestion.
Even more.
Right, just kind of a suggestion that, okay, time to throw the ball.
But if it becomes a new rule next year, the TV broadcasts are going to play it up big time.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to have a little corner box that shows you the pitch clock. It's like the shot clock in basketball. It'll be super annoying.
Yeah. So my question to you guys is, do you feel that there is a length of game issue?
Yes,
You
I
do.
do. I do because I think that it's trending longer, and I think if they let it go unchecked, it's just going to keep going. Because there's certainly a perceived advantage by pitchers of slowing things down, um, stretching it out. So I don't know. I mean, I think that if you look at the data and the trends keep saying that games get longer and longer, then I think they will keep getting longer until it's put, sort of brought in check.
Yeah, and most people would say that if a guy is working at a reasonable pace, he's not going to have any trouble at all with the pitch clock. And a lot of pitchers and former pitchers say it's in the pitcher's best interest in general to kind of be a fast worker, as far as being a team player and making sure that the team is all on the same page and not just standing out there forever waiting for the next pitch's delivery.
See, I just don't really see the speed of the game and the length between pitches. I just don't see that as being necessarily a pitcher's issue. Like, I think that batters are to blame just as much. But and I think I've talked about this on here before. It just drives me nuts that a pitcher or a batter has to step out of the batter's box after every pitch and adjust their gloves and everything like that. Like, that's slowing down the pace of the game. A lot of times you'll see pitchers, they'll get the ball, and yeah, I mean, they might kind of like, and at the same time, I'm kind of interrupting myself here, but at the same time, I do think that baseball is a game of strategy, and I think that I have nothing wrong with pitchers kind of like, whether it's moving dirt around or whatever, kind of going through like, okay, here's what I need to be doing with this guy. Here's what I've done so far. I'm going to set him up with this, or even thinking ahead. Okay, I've done this. This is what I'm going to throw now, and I'm going to set him up for this. I just think you can't have just like Nintendo baseball where I'm going fastball. So,
sorry, I'll let you finish.
Well, and I do think that the batters are to blame for a lot of it, just because that I think the rule should be when you're in the batter's box, unless you're like pushed out with an inside pitch or you take a swing, you really have no reason to like adjust your gloves 3 times. And
I kind of thought that to be the case too, sort of anecdotally. So I'm not trying to pick on you here, but I did kind of look around at like what data says, and
I don't believe in data. I'm sorry.
Carl Bialik, and I may be pronouncing that incorrectly, at 538. So working for Nate Silver, who made PECOTA.
Right.
So I think they probably know their data. But he's been studying it, and there's like a string on the 538 about pace, and he does say, at least it's not a huge thing, but he does say that the data suggests that the biggest factor affecting pace is the pitcher. Because they interact most with the ball and with other parts of the game. So,
Yeah, I guess I just look at like, what are some of the things, and I've seen, and so I'm going to throw some things out here, and a lot of things aren't necessarily things that I've thought about, but I've seen what other people say, and other discussions. I've read a ton of stuff, and so I couldn't begin to give credit to who said what. But I saw that. I think I read this morning, I was reading something, and they said something about limiting how many pitching substitutions you can have, and then, or limiting how many times you can throw to first base, like a pitcher can check over to first base. I think that would shave some time off the games, but I just love baseball the way it is, and I'm not trying to be like a traditionalist, but I don't think that there needs to be these like drastic changes right now, when it's almost like things are becoming an issue because people are talking about it so much. And I guess you kind of have to look at the root of it. Is like, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but my impression is this is an issue because younger people are not interested in baseball.
Yeah, and that was actually one thing he said in his remarks, that they have to get younger people interested in baseball, and also he mentioned a lot, like, this isn't the way people live their lives, sitting down,
That's true,
one thing for 3.5 hours. So,
but people sit down and watch NFL games. People sit down and watch, globally, people sit down and watch soccer, which has less scoring, maybe isn't quite as long. People watch hockey, which has less scoring, but maybe isn't quite as long. I just feel like, um, I don't.
I do think there's some degree of trying to pin bigger baseball issues and fan issues on the pace. So I agree with what you're saying about, like, I think the game's too slow, but I don't think the game being too slow is the reason they don't have 12-year-olds watching baseball.
Right. You shave 7 minutes off, and it's not like suddenly like, whoa, baseball's so fast and crazy.
I think that they're two different issues, and they're trying to correlate them when they really probably don't have a lot of correlation. But I think there's so much more. To me, the more important stuff is some other things he said about, like, bring baseball into the digital age and leave Bud Selig in the dust, and then worry about pace of play. Or implement things slowly. And I agree with you. Don't make drastic changes now. It's just would be stupid.
I think that they could do a lot, like you said, as far as the digital stuff. I think that could make baseball a lot more appealing than if it's the games are 7 minutes shorter. Right. It's still baseball. It's still a slow game, and it will always be a slow game. And I don't think you can make it be not a slow game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree. Like, that's part of what I like about baseball, the sort of methodical, chess-like approach to a particular hitter or a matchup, or like the defensive shifting. It's extreme, but if then batters hit into it or hit away from it. I that's what I really like about baseball. So I think implementing rules that take away options for strategy, I'm not for.
Right. Yeah, for instance, like if you check over to first base, let's say you limit that to 2 or 3 times per batter. Well, as soon as you do it that third time, they're going to have a leadoff halfway.
Or even after the second, the guy's going to be hitting hugely to try to get the third throw, because then he can just run freely.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
And I know that people are just kind of throwing out ideas or whatever now, but I'm not convinced that this is an issue right now. And it is an issue. I understand that, but I don't know if it's that big of an issue. I still think baseball is what it is, and younger people are going to like baseball whether it's 7 minutes shorter or it's 10 minutes longer. I think it's.
But I do think there's things. There are a lot of opportunities, so I'm at least encouraged that Manfred is a little more open to the opportunities than Selig was. Selig was just so stuck in the past.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't take advantage of anything. So, and what I mean by some of the opportunities is, like it or not, the NFL's having issues, and they're still the king as far as professional sports. But there are a lot of people that are anti-football now, and a lot of people scared of football injury, things like that, where the trends could be downward for some of the other sports. And if you can step in and fill that void, then I think there's opportunities there.
Well, and I think you have to, and this has been done at different times, over the years. But I think you kind of have to. I think it kind of starts at like a grassroots thing. If you want to get younger people interested in baseball, then you have to make it more accessible for them. You have to make it more accessible for all the different socioeconomic background, all the different, the rural, the inner city, the suburban. I mean, I just think it has to be like something that can apply, because that's what the NFL has become.
But the funny thing is like here they have
the NBA.
It seems to me a perfect case study in Latin America of baseball being the sport. Maybe soccer to some degree is pretty popular too, but you look at the Dominican, Cuba. Baseball is the thing, and those aren't wealthy countries. Kids are playing with homemade baseballs and broomsticks and having fun and turning out to be great baseball players. So I don't know. It seems like baseball is in a really great place to grow, but they just, I don't know, they haven't quite got it right, at least in this country, for the last, quite a while, 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that, you kind of touched on the digital stuff.
Yeah, I could go through just a couple other points that we don't have to dig into very deeply, but excuse me, he did say that the All-Star game would probably remain as is in deciding home field advantage in the World Series. The DH is probably not coming to the National League anytime soon. I know some people are excited about that. Some people are probably upset. I know Brett at Bleacher Nation is a huge advocate for it. Let's see, and then international draft seems to be something that, in his words, he said inevitable. So that would probably happen sometime soon.
I'm sorry, what's inevitable?
International draft.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. So did he say? I actually haven't paid too much attention to this commissioner stuff. Has he come out and said anything about the, streaming and all that kind of stuff?
Not directly, no, but he has said that baseball needs to kind of get up to date and come into the digital age of new media, and I think he's used the words new media and things like that. So, and C-League was known as not even having a computer, and then a lot of the articles I read made it a point to point out how technologically savvy that Manfred is. He has an iPad. Like that makes him, Steve Jobs or something. But no, at least we've made some progress in that department. That he knows that people watch baseball on devices, where I don't think C-League even knew what that meant.
What the hell's a device?
I have a cell phone. It flips open and you push the numbers and you call it.
Is a device like a widget?
A sprocket.
A cellular phone.
Yeah.
All right. Tony in the chat says I may be in the minority, but I enjoy 3 to 3.5 hour games. That's my relaxing time. I enjoy the strategy.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Tony. At the same time, I understand that that's probably not good for the game.
Mm-mm. Considering most 5-year-olds probably couldn't sit for.
Although I got
to do with the fact that they're 5, but still, they're not going to sit. I probably could have watched a whole baseball game at 7 or 8, but I think a lot of 7 or 8-year-olds now are pretty short attention.
Yeah, and I actually talked about this with a listener, Greg. At the that event Friday night, we were talking about all this stuff and the length of games and everything. He said that his sons wouldn't be able to handle a game at Wrigley Field, just because it would be too long. And I took my daughter to her first game when she was 5, and she sat through the entire thing and paid attention. And but I understand that that's, she also likes to people watch, so I think that had something to do with it too. But so I told him, I was like, well, if your kids are going to need to walk around and have some other activities, maybe Wrigley Field isn't the best place for their first game. Maybe you should take them to Miller Park or something. But all right, well, let's look at Andy. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I'm ready to move on.
Okay, so let's look at some listener questions. We ask for these on Facebook, and you can get there by going to ivnv.com/Facebook. And on Twitter @IVNV, and then we're also on Instagram @IVNV Podcast. So this first one comes from Johnny. It says, I have heard mixed reports on whether Baez is tweaking his swing. Is he or isn't he?
I haven't really seen much.
I'm at it, guys.
I haven't really seen much about that, but I do know that the hitting coach has been working with him. John Maley has been working with him. I know that, but
I would kind of guess that Baez's issue isn't his swing; it's more of his approach. And so, I don't know, but I would assume that they're probably working on that type of stuff and working on just his pitch recognition and all of that. I don't think you want to mess with his swing too much. But then again, Johnny says, are they tweaking his swing? I'm sure they are. I'm sure you're always tweaking your swing too. So I'm sure there is some of that going on. But I would guess it's more about approach and pitch recognition and strike zone control and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no doubt.
Bobby says, do you have any suggestions on what I should get my older brother for his birthday? We're going to opening day together, but I want to get him something to open on his actual birthday to go along with that. Would a Lester Scherzy be too obvious?
I think a Lester Scherzy would be pretty awesome to get. He's going to be with the Cubs for a while here, most likely, so I'd say that'd be a pretty sweet gift.
I agree. I would maybe even, if he's your brother, if he's a nice brother, then maybe throw in a Bryant Scherzy too.
Oh yeah.
Little offense, then he's got something to wear on the days that Scherzer or that Lester isn't starting. Scherzy is too close to Scherzer. I kind of messed myself up there. No, I don't think it's too obvious. I think it's a good gift. Thoughts, Kurt?
Sure, I agree.
I mean, but any of the players who look like they might be with the team for a while would be pretty cool. I mean, maybe an Arrieta,
Yeah.
Scherzy, or something like that.
Alfio says, what will the Andy? Is that you?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, okay.
I think it is.
Is it your internet?
No, I don't know what it is. It's been happening since I got the new system, so
Oh, okay.
I'm not really sure. Okay, that really brought the room down, but I mean, like, I'm
No, I was
trying to figure it out in the future.
No, I was typing in edit because I pointed it out.
Oh, okay.
I was giving myself a note to go back in and edit this out, which I'll probably forget, and now people get to listen to all of it. All right, here we go. Alfio says, what Cub will hit the longest home run this year?
I'm gonna vote Soler.
Travis Wood.
I'm gonna say
Soler. Huh.
I could see why you would go with that. I mean, we talked about moments that made us stand up and cheer in the last season, and that homer he hit against the Cardinals was one of those moments for me. But I kind of foresaw that one of you two would at least pick Soler, so I'm going to go with Baez. I think he has the bat speed and the power to really knock one out of there.
I was just gonna say you're gonna need to give us some evidence why you would pick that. 'Cause
Well,
that's ridiculous.
I know.
Who would choose Baez?
You're right. Like I should have said Tommy LaStella, but
Yeah, I think I would go with Baez too. I think Soler, yeah, who knows? It could be either one of those guys or Rizzo, but I could just see Baez just like jumping all over a mistake and just like crush, just bouncing it like off one of those buildings across.
I thought you were gonna say
Cleveland.
scoreboard.
No, yeah, that too.
talking about like a Glenn Allen Hill type of homer.
Yeah, I could just see him just like demolishing a mistake if he could ever see a mistake. That's the question.
A mistake that didn't land in the dirt.
Every pitch looks like a mistake to him, and then
The mistake he
Oh,
sees
man.
it like the pitcher just lost the handle and it didn't even make it halfway.
Ed says, what are the chances of the Cubs signing James Shields?
I thought it was a good shot early, before they signed Lester because of the whole Madden connection. But at this point, it doesn't seem likely because I don't think they want to throw that much more money into the rotation.
I still think that they will, or maybe they even have made him an offer, but I don't think it's what he'll sign anywhere close to what he wants or what he'll sign for. So
Right. I mean, the Cubs have been pretty clear that they see this kind of boosting of the rotation as a 2-year project, and I think there's several free agents to look at next year. They've said that they're done with big signings, and I tend to believe this front office and what they say. I don't think they've very often said something and then done the opposite. I think if Shields' price tag drops enough, I think they would be interested. But then if it drops, then so will a lot of other teams. So I would say not likely. I think his price tag is too high.
still, it's pretty hard to figure out like who is going to get him though. I mean, and a lot of people have burned a lot of calories trying to figure that out. It's not really worth it, but the market is kind of interesting because it doesn't seem like there are a lot of obvious places he might end up.
Right.
So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there.
We have one here from Stuart, and he says, "What do you think the chances of Schwarber? What do you think the chances of Schwarber sticking at catcher? How will the Cubs play him this year?" I'm sorry, I copied this and it's like super small. I can't see it.
Do you want me to finish it?
Sure.
How would will how the Cubs play him this year be the tell as to whether he moves to left for the future? Too early to ask this question.
I should have jumped in and said, "Do you want me to finish it when you had trouble at the beginning?"
It takes three of us to read one question.
It was the Will Howell that threw me off. All right. Well, just
Well,
to
we
get
should
back
say
on
Stuart
track,
did word it.
want me to answer the question.
He did word it correctly. I mean, it was us.
We just don't know how to read.
Right.
Mine wasn't even small. I don't even have that excuse. I just can't read. But my opinion, and I'm not basing this on anything that I've read or anything, but I think it's probably like 50-50 him staying at catcher, because I would say that he hasn't done anything to say he can't catch in the majors, but he also hasn't done anything to say he's going to be a star defensive catcher. I mean, I think we know what he's going to be offensively for the most part, but and what Corey talked about with in the pitch framing episode with Harry, it pretty much highlighted how important things like framing and things like that are to a catcher. So to me, he's still on the fence, and they'll make that decision later.
Yeah.
Just having seen him speak in at Cubs convention, he seems so determined and focused to remain a catcher, and he seems like he's willing to put in the necessary work to stay there. So his attitude and just his his fortitude, his constitution seemed to be all bent toward trying to remain there and doing everything possible to be a good catcher. So I did like that about him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he were able to stick there based on what I saw at Cubs convention.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where he wants to play, and I think he's going to do everything he can to do that. However, I think the Cubs are going to make a decision on that pretty quick. I think by the end of this season we'll know. I've seen some other people say that same thing. I think that the Cubs, they value his bat a lot, and they value his bat more than they do him behind the plate. And so I think as long as he does okay at catcher, I think they're okay with leaving him there. But if he's going to, and I think that they're working with him, obviously, but I think that if it gets to the point where they're having to work with him so much to keep him at catcher that it diminishes his significance at the bat, then I think that they will move him, and the catching will be done. And
he'll probably get.
So I think we'll know by the end of this year, this
Yeah.
season.
But I do think you'll see him play left once in a while. Not a lot, but
Right.
from time to time. And I think some of this is the stuff that we can't predict of how the Cubs are playing in the next couple of years. I mean, if they're in a playoff race in 2016 and Schwarber's catching and they need a left fielder with a bat, it would, that's immediate value from him versus he might not be ready to catch at the major league level till 2017. We don't know. It takes longer for catchers to progress. So how they're doing and when they need them could affect that too.
Right. Yep. We have a question here from Twitter. This is from @pithead2, and they say, any idea where Castillo, Wood, and Lake will end up?
Lake could be in the lake. Castillo traded. Who knows where?
Yeah, I have no clue.
And Wood, I think they're just going to wait and see what kind of value he brings. Don't you think?
Right.
But I could see him being in the rotation, no problem. I mean, I don't think that would be a surprise to me to see him as being in the rotation.
No, I don't think so either. Basically, I mean, he's got a lot of experience. I mean,
I think Castillo is the one that you can pretty much guarantee will not be on the Cubs roster to start the season. But I mean, as far as like where they will actually end up, I don't know if he means like specifically teams and stuff. I don't know that much of what other teams need. I don't know what teams need catchers and what team needs, number 4, number 5 left-handed pitchers, and who needs Junior Lake. I don't know.
But I mean, he's right in thinking that these guys, it's kind of hard to predict what their future is with the team. Well, maybe not, but at least like with Lake and Wood, it's a little hard to see them being with the team that much longer in general.
Right. Yeah. We have one more question here from Justin. what are we going to do with all these shortstops? Also, how much have y'all bet that the Cubs will win the World Series this year?
I haven't bet any.
I'm going to Las Vegas in April, and I will not. Those are not odds that I will be betting on.
Didn't you bet on them a couple of years ago or something, Corey?
Last 2 or 3 years I have. Last 2 years I did. And I think the odds were 50 or 60 to 1, which is why I did it. I did not think that the Cubs. I think the Cubs are a better bet to get to the World Series. But them getting to the World Series is not a better bet. Does that make any sense? If you would like to make a few bucks back, I just don't think these odds are very good. In that, you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think the return is good enough to justify doing it. Where before I was like, oh yeah, the Cubs are an absolutely awful team. I'll put $10 on them and hope that I hit the jackpot. So no, I will not be putting. I assume you guys. I don't think you guys are gamblers, are you? Neither am I. That's like my only 2 sports bets I've ever made.
I mean, I've played poker a few times, but
Yeah.
with dimes.
I've lost money in poker a few times. I don't know that I've actually played.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for sending those in. Hopefully I didn't miss any. I'm kind of out of my routine since we're recording the afternoon, but I think that's all of them. Hold on just 1 second. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, well, we don't have any iTunes or Stitcher reviews to read. If you enjoy our podcast, we'd appreciate if you would write us a review on iTunes or the iOS podcast app or on Stitcher. Those help us move up the rankings, and someday we might just get ranked above Cubscast, which was a superb Cubs podcast, but hasn't released an episode in, 3 or 4 years? That's my goal. Get ranked ahead of a podcast that hasn't put out an episode in 4 years. But those guys were good, and they still hold that number 1 spot. And we also want to read your reviews we want your reviews because we read them on the show, and we're looking for another reason to play Chuck Mangione Feels So Good. And the podcast awards, if you're listening to this within the first day of this episode being released, the podcast awards nomination period ends on Monday. That's February 2nd. And last year we were finalists in the podcast awards, and we would love to return to that list again as the top 10 sports podcasts. And you can nominate us by going to podcastawards.com and then write us into the sports category, and our show URL is ivmb.com. And then we'd also appreciate it if you would nominate our wives. Andy's wife and my wife are in Mommy's Cocktail Hour. They're in the food and drink category. They've been finalists 2 or 3 years now, more than we have. And then our friend Bob from Moline, he does I Hate Critics podcast, and you can put that in the movies/film category. All right, so do you guys have any internet muscle flexes?
I have one.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, I have 3, I think. So, if you're just finding our show, in this segment we read cases of commenters flexing their muscles on other commenters through various Cubs.com or different social media outlets. How about I'll read 1 or 2, Andy, and then you can read 1, then I'll read 1.
Sounds good.
Let's see. Okay, so the first one is from Cubs. Well, you know what, Andy? I don't want to read one of yours or read your one if that's what you have. We should communicate ahead of time.
Well, I bet mine is I don't think that you would have picked mine, but maybe that's
okay. Well, stop me if I start it.
Okay.
Okay, so this one is from the article entitled "Banks Honored During Memorial Service in Chicago."
Oh no, I was wondering if there would be some flexes on those articles. That's it's time to just leave the guns in the sleeves, on.
Okay. Well, let me just put it this way: the commenter has a White Sox logo as their user image.
Oh, all right, great.
Oh,
so the person says, "Yawn. Aren't there any baseball news stories to report?
Holy crap.
Oh, let's go with no. I'm sorry. No. Well, let's go with a who cares story.
What? Oh my gosh. Oh man, that she was. I will say I did know a lot of fans of other teams being very respectful and acknowledging just how great Banks was, how great of a player Banks was, and how great he was for baseball in general. So it seems like most fans of other teams have been really classy about it. But yeah, you run into a few people like that, I guess.
Yeah. I do want to, you know what, I just looked in the chat. I totally forgot to I missed Tony's question that he put in the chat earlier. And he was asking why Pat Hughes was not at Cubs convention. And they announced at Cubs convention that he was recovering from a minor surgery. I think that's what they said. Is that right, Andy?
Yes, like he would have been there if he hadn't just had some sort of minor procedure. So, and it sounded like he was going to be back up to speed in time to cover the games once they get started. So.
Right. So, Tony, I apologize for
just like he inexplicably disappears in the middle of a game. He just disappeared in the middle of Cubs convention.
Right.
Everyone's like, where'd he go?
So, Tony, I apologize for skipping that. I thought I pasted it into the notes here, but I must have missed it. So, I'm glad I looked at the chat. All right, guys. I had to stop it for a second because my batteries were dying.
All right, so we're not recording right now?
No.
What? Did you guys check your email? It's like somebody's effing with us.
Oh, Jeremy says too late, Corey. Tony does not accept your apology. Yeah, I saw that this email is crazy. I didn't really.
But it's like it's from like somebody typed gibberish SASDFG like, but it looks like somebody actually wrote it, and somebody who has some level of knowledge of what we're talking about. But it's sort of like somebody's just messing with us. It looks like.
I haven't seen it yet.
If somebody's messing with us, it's hilarious. If somebody's serious about this, it's pretty messed up.
I'll look at it. Can I look at it when we're done recording?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to start this back up. All right. So I have another one here. I'll do this one. And these came from. Let's see. This one came from an Instagram photo. Okay. So it's the picture from Cubs convention. There was that guy that said the future is here. At Cubs convention, and he was the one he held it when Baez came up at the Colorado game. So he's in like maybe probably 4th or 5th grade, something like that. So this is and it's not in response to anyone else. Like it's kind of towards the top of the comments because I thought maybe it was in response to somebody, but I couldn't find where it was. Okay, so this kid's holding a sign that says the future is here, and the person says it's sad because humans can't actually tell the future. Therefore, your opinion is invalid.
Jeez.
I also find the optimism of children to be completely invalid. I agree with that person. I don't know what you think is so wrong with it.
We should probably just start calling this segment the misanthropy moment of the week because, like, just makes me hate people.
Me too.
Okay, so go ahead with yours, Andy.
Okay. All right, this is on the article entitled Rizzo's Triumph Over Cancer Takes Stage on Network Special.
Oh, no.
It has nothing to do with cancer, though. Spoiler alert. Okay.
Thankfully.
All right, so first commenter says, doesn't elite seem a little much for a first baseman who had 78 RBI? He had a nice season, hit 286. The year before he hit 233 with 80 RBI. And then here's the flexer. It says, using RBI as a measure of a great hitter. How retro of you. Just kind of enjoyed how condescending that was. But somebody else responded that said, dude, he was the only good player in the team last year. Teams beforehand would say, don't let Rizzo beat us. He never really got much of a chance to hit with RISP with Bonifacio and Baez hitting in front of him. I just like Bonifacio.
Oh man. Okay, so I have this last one here, and it does contain a swear word. So if you have a child in the car, you might want to skip ahead 30 seconds or so. Okay, so the first commenter says, "Oh, so this is this is under from Instagram, and it's under the picture of Ernie Banks' like funeral procession, I think, or something like that." So the person says, "Fuck baseball," and then the next person says, "Shut up, idiot," and then the first person says, "No, it is so boring and it sucks. I hate it." I was like, "Why would you comment on an Instagram picture?"
That's the future right there. That's the future baseball fan. We got to find a way to pull them in. Some 12-year-old watching YouTube
Right.
videos.
You're right. Oh man.
Stupid and it's boring.
Right. All right. Well, that does it for this week's episode. This episode was brought to you by our Patreon contributors. Thanks to all of our Hall of Fame, well, all of our contributors, but especially the Hall of Fame level contributors: Brian, John, Michael, Shane, Tony, Cass, Andrew, Jane, Ryan, Charles, Dallas, Dave, and Jeremy. And a big thanks to our associate producer level contributors: Joshua, Anthony, and the Baez shirt winner, Matthew. And also thanks to Brian from Woodridge, Illinois, and he joined the Patreon campaign this week. And our Patreon supporters help us fund this podcast and keep it going. Your support helps us provide every IVNB experience. And if you would like to join the 52 listeners that are supporting the podcast, go to patreon.com/IVNB. It's really easy to support us, and the pledging levels start off at just $1 a month. Very easy entry point. If you would, buy one of us a Starbucks coffee once every couple of months, then think about joining the Patreon campaign. And again, you can go to patreon.com/IVNB. That's patreon.com/IVNB. We'll work on finding a date to reschedule our baseball card episode. It'll probably be sometime in February. If you enjoyed this episode, please tell a friend that is a Cubs fan about our podcast. We're coming up on the season, and people are talking a lot more about the Cubs. And if you enjoy our discussions, they probably would too. Thanks for listening and downloading, and until next Sunday evening, go Cubs. All right.
So Jeremy in the chat says, "What's in the email? What's in the email?" And then it says 7 reference in parentheses, and then it says in more parentheses 7 is a movie with Brad Pitt reference, and then additional parentheses Brad Pitt is an actor reference.
Oh. Kurt, is Andy cutting out for you?
Am I cutting out?
No, he sounds okay. I mean, there's a couple times where
Oh.
that popping came in, but
Yeah, I don't know why it's been doing that. But man, did you look up the email, Corey?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh my
Let me
gosh, I need to see your reaction as you read it.
I mean, I can give the people in the chat a little taste of what it is, but it's like so.
Conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, it's so dense and ridiculous. It says. First of all, it starts out by saying this is my favorite Hunter.
First off, wait a minute. First of all, it's an AOL address.
Right.
Right, and it's clearly like made up, like somebody just hit keys on the keyboard. SASDFG is who it's from.
And it says, "Hey guys, this is my favorite Hunter Pence podcast, and I've noticed you've been talking about the Cubs a lot recently." Which is very funny. Then it says, "Have any of you guys ever noticed that the last time the Cubs went to the World Series was in 1945? If you're a history buff like me, you would also know that World War II ended in 1945 as well. Why am I connecting the two? Because there's something awfully fishy about the MLB that connects WW2, Adolf Hitler, was known to brainwash children in a project known as Hitler's Young Tigers. Probably still wondering, what's the big deal? I'll tell you what the big deal is. In the 1945 World Series, the Cubs faced the Detroit Tigers. Hitler's Young Tigers, Detroit Tigers. 1945. I think that's weird. It gets weirder, and then just go. It's like I can't read the rest of it. It's but funny. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to read the whole thing. I'm just kind of scanning it.
Yeah. It's
It's hilarious.
the weirdest thing is like it's fairly okay. I'm fairly certain somebody wrote it to be funny and it's just messing with us. But it's sad to me that there's this little voice in my head like this could be real. Somebody might actually think this based on our internet muscle flex reading.
Oh, man. Jeez. All right. Well, I'm going to end the broadcast. So, thanks everybody for watching today.
Yeah, Tony and Jeremy, thank you.
Bye,
It
guys.
was nice to see the chat scrolling over there and tried to look at it as much as I could. So,